A few weeks ago, we heard the news that Dominick Cruz versus Henry Cejudo was signed for UFC 249's co-main event alongside Ferguson versus Gaethje on May the 9th. And I said to myself a few weeks ago, if you think that Dominick Cruz deserves a title shot, you're wrong. He doesn't deserve a title shot. I also said back then as well that there is zero chance that Dominick Cruz is going to come back after 4 years and beat Henry Cejudo for the bantamweight world title. And I also said back then that if you think that Dominick Cruz is going to beat Henry Cejudo, then you are dumb. I looked at the odds. I think I'm dumb because Dominick Cruz should not be that heavy of an underdog. And the more I think about this fight and the more I think about Dominick Cruz's style and actually how good Dominick Cruz was back in his heyday, I think to myself, you know what? This is a very competitive fight and those odds should not be what they are. I feel like, if I remember correctly, Dominick Cruz is a plus 200 underdog. Madness to me. Absolute madness. I cannot believe that the odds are like that. I thought the odds were going to be way closer, but I assumed that Henry Cejudo was going to be a bit more of a favourite. Because I was thinking to myself, I've been watching a lot of Cejudo's fights. And I've been watching a lot of Dominick Cruz's fights as well. If I had to pick a style to beat Henry Cejudo, it might be Dominick Cruz. How you got to beat Henry Cejudo? You got to have great scrambles and counter wrestling. That's Dominick Cruz. How are you going to beat Henry Cejudo? Well, at bantamweight, he's not the biggest in the world, so you got to be quite a big bantamweight. Dominick Cruz, you know? Well, Henry Cejudo can hit hard, and if you make the wrong mistake, he might be able to knock you down or concuss you. You got to have a good chin. Just Dominick Cruz. You know, every single time I bring up a point about Henry Cejudo, well, Henry Cejudo can leg kick, and the movement of Dominick Cruz is going to be a problem there. So if I had to beat Henry Cejudo, I'd need someone who's able to swap stances with their movement and footwork so that not one leg can get chewed up the entire fight. Well, it's Dominick Cruz. He switches stances. I was thinking, I think I'm going to go with Dominick Cruz, and I might end up completely fucking myself over here because I've said for the longest time that Henry Cejudo was going to win this fight. However, the more I think about everyone in that bantamweight division other than Marlon Moraes, I start to think to myself that maybe all of them beat Henry Cejudo because there isn't a single division right now other than the men's bantamweight division, in the men's divisions of course, where the champion could be conceived as the underdog against so many contenders. If I was to match up Yan versus Cejudo right now, what way do you think the fans would side on who's going to win that fight? I think they'd go with Petr Yan. I think the odds might even go with Petr Yan as well. What if they paired him up with Corey Sandhagen? Another nightmare matchup for Henry Cejudo. By the way, Corey Sandhagen, a nightmare matchup for Henry Cejudo, who modelled himself after Dominick Cruz. I just think Dominick Cruz's style might be a little bit tricky for Henry Cejudo. Cejudo comes in fast. He also likes to counter-strike as well. So he puts the pressure on guys. He waits for them to throw and then he counter-strikes. Dominick Cruz is not going to get hesitant and just throw something for the sake of it just to hit you. Dominick Cruz is the counter-puncher. You're going to have to come to him. So that whole counter-punching part from Henry Cejudo is out the fucking window because Dominick Cruz don't even play that fucking game. Then I watched TJ Dillashaw versus Henry Cejudo. And as much as people only complain about the stoppage, I kind of complain about the finish as well. If you look closely, you can see that Henry Cejudo whiffs a big punch, TJ Dillashaw slips it very well, but just not quite enough, and the thumb of Henry Cejudo on his punch clips the back of the head of TJ Dillashaw and drops him and rocks him, and TJ can't get his equilibrium back for the rest of the entire contest until the stoppage happened. So I wasn't even angry at the stoppage from the referee. I was furious. However, after looking back, I'm a little bit more concerned about the actual finish. It wasn't the cleanest piece of work in the world. I'll be honest with you. I know a bunch of guys at bantamweight that would not let TJ Dillashaw off the hook like that many times. There's no way they'd let TJ Dillashaw scramble because you know what? John Dodson didn't. You know? There's a lot of guys at bantamweight that if they hit TJ Dillashaw, he's not going to get that many opportunities to get back up. Okay? If that first round of the first Garbrandt fight was any longer, I really worry for TJ Dillashaw's chances. And when I look at Cejudo's power at 135, and I watch his fight with Marlon Moraes, I see that Marlon lost that fight. I'm giving Cejudo all the credit in the world, and I'm not just shitting on Cejudo because he's somewhat annoying and he does all of his whole shtick. I don't care about the shtick. Colby Covington's one of my favourite fighters. I'm not one of those guys. But when I really look at Cejudo's performances, did he beat Demetrius Johnson in a rematch? When Demetrius Johnson broke his foot and tore his ACL and broke his hand as well in that fight? Did he beat Demetrius Johnson, or did Demetrius Johnson win 3-2? Demetrius Johnson won 3-2, but Demetrius Johnson was about to leave the company that day and go to ONE FC with a big win over Henry Cejudo. Just saying. They gave it to Henry Cejudo. They gave the decision. It was a close fight. I thought DJ got the job done, but Henry Cejudo got it done. And then there was the finish against TJ Dillashaw, and then Marlon Moraes shit himself and quit in the 3rd round. After completely schooling Henry Cejudo in the first 2 rounds, and again, you have to give credit to Henry Cejudo here. He won that fight. He was dog tough. He got through the leg kicks on his already injured leg, and he came forward. But I think that in terms of skill, and in terms of just the fight, it's a 50-50 contest between Henry Cejudo and Dominick Cruz. You know? I think it's a 50-50 in terms of when they're both in the cage and if they're both healthy. The only reason I was saying there's no way Dominick Cruz is going to beat Henry Cejudo is because he's been off for 4 years. You know, he's tried to come back in those 4 years. It's not like he said, I'm taking 4 years off and I'm not going to do anything. I mean, he tried to come back against John Lineker. I think he tried to come back against the Sun Sao at one point as well. He's been trying to come back for a very long time. He just keeps getting injured and he can't stay in a fight long enough to get there on fight day. And that worried me a little bit. But then I started thinking to myself, hang on a second here. The only reason I'm not picking Dominick Cruz is because he's coming off injuries. He hasn't been in a cage for a long time. Who else do I know that has those 2 very same problems? Henry Cejudo. He's coming off injuries. He tore his shoulder to pieces. He hurt his foot as well. He's been off for a long time. And by the way, he did not stay in good physical condition when he got off. He really enjoyed his food. Okay, and I know everyone's going to go at me for that, but either way, Henry Cejudo's abs played a little disappearing trick on us because they were gone. As soon as he got that shoulder surgery, Henry Cejudo's abs said goodbye. Okay? We've seen the video of him getting outside the pool. He does not seem like he's been the most strict afterwards, and I feel like there's something we have to take into consideration here. Henry Cejudo may not be taking Dominick Cruz too seriously. And when you do that, you look for an early finish and you end up looking pretty damn stupid. Okay, Cody Garbrandt beat Dominick Cruz when Dominick Cruz had no feet. And that's just a fact. If you watch Dominick Cruz's career, his footwork throughout his entire 3 fights within the year over TJ Dillashaw, Uriah Faber, and then Cody Garbrandt got consecutively worse and worse and worse. And it also answers the reason why Dominick Cruz would take on the number 7 Cody Garbrandt, who was on a massive streak in the division, rather than someone higher up the rankings that he's maybe a bit of a better style matchup for. You know, he took that fight because he knew his legs were fucked, in my opinion. He would not stoop down to number 8 or 7 in the division to find a title fight for himself. I don't think that's a very smart thing, unless he knew that I'm going to take on this low-ranked guy that I think I can beat because I'm not in 100% condition right now. When you look at their careers, I think Dominick Cruz can pull this one off. Henry Cejudo's going to have to throw a lot of leg kicks. Well, Dominick Cruz isn't just Wonder Boy. So you're not going to be able to throw that many leg kicks because Dominick Cruz is just as good one way as he is the other. And a lot of people say that about Wonderboy Thompson. It's not true. Wonderboy Thompson's weapons completely change on one stance compared to the other one. A lot of people say he fights just as well in both stances. That's not true whatsoever. It just isn't. You know, Wonderboy stands fucking orthodox. He does a lot with the hands. Wonderboy stands a lot southpaw. It means he's going to do some shit with the feet. There's a lot of ways to read Wonderboy. He's not as fluent as Dominick Cruz is because Wonderboy Thompson has been taught one way his entire life. Dominick Cruz has figured this out all by himself. He's had no mentor. He's the freestyle king. He made up his own style. There is no teaching. He's going to be able to do whatever he wants, including switching stances whenever he wants and being just as good on either stance, which means those leg kicks, good luck putting in all that work on the lead leg, because now on the rear leg, when he switches it, you're going to have to attack a whole new fresh leg. It's just going to be a lot of work for Henry Cejudo to eventually chop down those legs of Dominick Cruz, which is the one thing that you have to do, and we saw that in the TJ Dillashaw fight around the 4th round. TJ Dillashaw realised, oh wait a second, I can chew up this guy's legs, and he started to do it very, very well. But Henry Cejudo's not... I just don't see the power in leg kicks. Like, if Marlon Moraes is landing that many leg kicks on someone, in any other division, they go down. You know, and at bantamweight, I don't think they quite have the right oomph in their leg kicks to really stop the movement of Dominick Cruz. I don't think one leg kick at bantamweight can change the fucking fight. I know it can at welterweight, middleweight, light heavyweight, and heavyweight. and lightweight in some cases as well. I know it can, especially when you're talking about Edson Barboza, that is. One leg kick can change the fight in these higher weight classes, but when you're fighting with these smaller guys, there's a lot less chance of a knockout. Dominick Cruz has an amazing chin. I don't see Henry Cejudo finishing him, and I don't see Henry Cejudo just straight up outstriking Dominick Cruz, and I don't see him out wrestling him. Because as much as Henry Cejudo's wrestling is considered to be Olympic gold medalist, he's the best wrestler at that weight class in the world. I mean, Demetrius Johnson was scrambling well. You know, even in the exchanges that he and TJ had while TJ was semi-conscious, he was scrambling quite well in those situations. You know, even Marlon gave up, so we're not even going to talk about Marlon Moraes. We know the story of that fight. Marlon Moraes was doing A-okay, and then he realised that, oh wait, this isn't as easy as I thought it was going to be. I'm going to give up. And you could see it on Marlon Moraes' face. At the end of the first round, Marlon Moraes' judges were saying, think of your family. You know? That's a bit of a problem to me. And that tells me that maybe Marlon Moraes wasn't quite ready for the big show. Dominick Cruz is ready for the big show. Also, I saw a picture of him. He looks in exactly the same shape as he used to look like. It doesn't seem like he's gotten out of shape whatsoever. He looks as lean as he always used to. He's still got abs. He's looking in shape. He's ready to go. And I believe that he wouldn't take this fight and risk his entire legacy unless he knew that he had a real good chance of winning. And I think an underdog that he is, and let me look up the betting odds real quick right now on stream. UFC 249 betting odds. It's ridiculous to me. It really is that he is the underdog that he is. Let me look at them right here. Here we go. Dominick Cruz is now a plus 180. That has come down a little bit, but Jesus Christ, that is too juicy to give up. I'm going to pick Dominick Cruz just because it's a little bit... I think I'm going to pick him. I think I'm going to pick Dominick Cruz. I think I'm dumb. I think I'm really dumb for overlooking Cejudo again because I've done it so many times. I picked Moraes. I picked Dillashaw. I picked Demetrius Johnson. It's just, I don't think he's going to win. I don't think he's going to finish Cruz. And I don't think he's going to outpoint him. So we're kind of in a weird situation here. Henry Cejudo is very flat-footed. He likes to find the range. He's very single-shot orientated now as well with his new karate style that he likes to employ. I don't think that's the type of guy you can be against Dominick Cruz. I think you need to be more offensive, throw a lot more combinations, finish combinations with leg kicks. I don't think you can be Henry Cejudo and beat the type of guy that Dominick Cruz is. I think Cruz is going to beat him. I think he's going to beat him by decision. And I think he's going to win every round other than maybe the first, where Henry might drop him. I just don't see him getting finished. So I'm going to go Dominick Cruz. I'm going to go Dominick Cruz. I hope that everyone's with me here, because I'm making a big switch, and this could backfire heavily, and I could look like a fool. And someone might be watching this in the future right now in an alternate universe, watching me say that I might look like a fool while I'm looking like a fool, and that really does worry me. I think I'm going to pick Dominick Cruz though. And if Dominick Cruz does win, what does he do next? He could just retire and be the greatest bantamweight of all time, and maybe, and no one talks about this, the greatest of all time. To come back that many times in this many eras and beat the champions of that era. And I've said that before, but people say, oh, what about Renan Barão? He beat Dillashaw just after Dillashaw beat Renan Barão, okay? There weren't too many eras fucking apart, okay? It wasn't like the TJ Dillashaw era of bantamweight. He just won the belt and defended it against Joe fucking Soto. Calm down, okay? I don't need to see Dominick Cruz beat Renan Barão before I label him the greatest bantamweight of all time. If he wins this one, he'll be the greatest. But will he stop there? Because he might go for Volkanovski. He might wait for Dillashaw to come back and do that rematch for the belt. TJ never lost the belt. It might fuck over the contenders even more. But if I had to say anything to the contenders, it's just don't turn down any fight whatsoever. And if it means that the winner of Yan versus Moraes is going to have to take on the winner of Sandhagen versus Sterling, then so be it. Whoever's more willing to take those fights is going to be the one that's going to be looking for a title shot afterwards, and it sucks for the contenders. But maybe Cruz will take on Piotr Yan. There's history there. I don't fucking know, to be honest with you, but, you know. And then we'll try and work out how we can get Cody Garbrandt back towards the title shot. And maybe do the winner of Yan versus Moraes versus the winner of Garbrandt versus... I don't know. Let's just have some fun with the bantamweight division. I think Cruz is going to come back and beat Cejudo. And I'm hoping for it as well. Because I think it would be a great mix-up of things. And I'm sick of Henry Cejudo looking for money fights that aren't really money fights, to be honest with you. Goodbye. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Click that button there. See you later. Yeah. Cruz by decision.